even though I like read notes and read the
Yeah.
book and I had a bit of downtime before. I think they were pretty awful.
Hmm. I mean, like, doing all that stuff isn't a guarantee that it's going to go well every time, right? So you just got to stick at it, I think. Yeah, I don't know. Do you think you felt like you were playing your C game or whatever, or what do you think was the problem?
I think the first one I was probably playing my C game. The second one I was probably playing average for tournament. I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say like it was probably my B game.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't really know. I think it's just more so like I've been doing notes more consistently since I've been back off of that small break.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I could notice that I was starting to get a bit more tilted or like things were slipping, so I started back up the notes and stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
Every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I feel a little better today, and writing means that I'm generally not like tilted or mad after I've written them out, which is, I guess, good.
Hmm. Did you write any notes after the sets you played? Out of interest.
I wrote it after the tournaments because the tournament yesterday was literally wait an hour in to play Modest Major and to play the Puff. So
Yeah.
I've got
'Cause
them if you want me to send them.
Yeah, sure. What I was going to say is I find it really helpful as soon as I've lost and loses, if I have time, just to jot down some of my thoughts, just so they're not like clouding my thoughts when I'm playing in losers, because I don't want to be hung up about the set I just played when I'm trying to focus on my opponent that's in front of me.
Yeah, that's fair.
And even if it's just like some quick bullet points or whatever, that's way more useful than nothing at all. Um, I mean, other people do it in the form of like venting about how stupid the other person's character is or whatever to whoever's nearest. But yeah, it's all the same thing of just like getting it out of your head and getting it, you know, making it so you can focus later on.
I'll send it privately.
Cool.
Yeah, I Oh fuck! I don't think I put it shareable. Fuck.
That's fine.
Anyone with a link? Copy. Yeah, it was sort of like everybody was waiting on one guy who was entered in two tournaments.
That should be banned. But yeah.
So I was waiting on him, and then everybody was held up on that, so I played Modest straight into him. But yeah, I see what you mean. If I've got a bit more time, I should write some more consistent notes. I don't think there's much to say about the Modest sets. Like, don't really see
I mean,
anything.
I mean, to be honest, like the two losses you had, well, from what I saw, the two losses you had were Modest and Sarah in losers, who I think are both like, quite a few tiers above you at the moment. I don't know if you feel the same way. Or...
I didn't think Sarah was that good.
Okay, I think. I don't know. I think there's more like important things. So like the book says, right? You want to raise your floor rather than making your peak better. So that's why I said you want to focus more on the the sets where you're going 2-1 last hit or whatever. Because like you make 3 or 4 adjustments and you're suddenly going from that to 2-stocking them every game or whatever. So yeah, you said the Puff and I think there was a Falcon as well.
Yeah. Do you want me to send the Falcon instead of the Puff, or do you want to? I know you want to go over the Doc one first. Yeah. Then do you think which one do you think would be better?
I think the better use of our time would be the Puff, because I've already been over the Falcon matchup with Haunter in like 3 VODs, I think, and I think I've pretty much covered the whole matchup in those 3 VODs, if I'm honest. So, or at least any of the things you probably ran into with this guy will be covered in those VODs. So I would just go away and watch those as a way to improve at that matchup. I think Puff, because I haven't done any videos on Puff yet, I don't think.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
So I think, yeah. Just reading through this, it looks like you're pretty prepared. Did you actually get around to doing any of the injecting logic stuff? Like, did any of the tilt things come up? Or
the injecting logic ones, yeah, some of it. stuff where I couldn't think of an answer against Sir. He was just like full hopping in the middle, and I sort of like in between stocks was just like, okay, just try and figure it out, try and dash dance outside of his space,
Yeah.
which was okay. The Falcon. The Falcon. I was like being cognizant of like not like shining after every aerial and like getting hit by stomp and things like that after that started happening. Not so much the defensive stuff. The second part, the defensive stuff. So I was more doing like decisions based on their playstyle. I was trying to do that, and I was recognizing more stuff than I would usually in tournament. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's.
That's good.
I think at the moment it's a bit distracting for me though. Like I'm not used to playing tournament whilst having to recognize stuff.
Yeah, so I will say overall, the general gist I'm getting from your notes is I think you're trying to jump too many steps at once. Like, for instance, when you say, making decisions based on their playstyle, or there was another one.
In the inject logic stuff.
Yeah, there was one of them to do with sorry, let me read through it again.
Probably on the first part, look at their character, don't just assume a playstyle, that's right. Maybe jump in too many steps.
It was slightly different. It was something to do with you getting told to buy, you were losing to stuff when you knew they were going to do it, but
I don't see that.
I swear I read that.
I do, like, I actually remember thinking that or like writing that as well. I can't see it either.
But yeah, I think you want to focus more on like the fact that you're like the book says this as well about like you need to work on like recognizing the situations first and then work on actually executing the answer to them, and then you should have that point where you're like you should expect yourself to beat those options, whereas I feel like it's jumped from not knowing what's happening at all to I've got an idea of what's happening now, so now I'm expecting that I'll beat this option, when like there's groundwork that needs to be done between those 2 points.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I will say also a lot of the stuff just link to that basically. If you haven't practiced, for example, beating the full hop stuff that we talked about in friendlies and practicing the execution in solo practice, then you can't reasonably expect to be able to do it versus someone better than you, right?
Yeah, I have been practicing it, but it's like it's still not enough.
Yeah.
So like I've practiced it, but it's still not to the point where I can do it versus somebody better than me.
Yeah, there's actually a point in the second book actually, which I actually just pinned. Fromantari posted a link to.
Yeah,
it.
I saw.
There's a bit about how like when you practice, there's like different levels of like the intensity of the situation in which you're practicing it. So, for example, if you manage to do something in your bedroom playing against a CPU, then that's like a level 1 scenario. Whereas a level 5 scenario would be like playing on stream at Genesis.
Yeah.
For example. And the level 5 ones obviously contribute a lot more. Say you only need like 5 of those compared to like needing to do it about 100 times in front of a CRT. So I'm not really sure where I'm going with this, but you see like what I'm trying to get at, right?
Yeah, it's like my practice is like I practice it on Uncle Punch either like with like reversal, or I'll set up a combo thing. So like when we're talking about platform follow-ups, I would do that then, and then I would try it in friendlies, and then like there's no like mid steps, I guess. I had a semi-decent mid step with Mackenzie today.
Yeah.
So I played against him for an hour, and then he actually asked me to go on voice chat and talk through some stuff as well, which was
sick.
Pretty sick, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was showing me better practical ways of doing it. But some it seems like sometimes you need somebody else to be able to like kind of lab stuff with, like in
Yeah.
just like unranked or just like random games. It just doesn't really.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really get the scenarios come up often enough to be able to hit the sorts of stuff sometimes.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing. Learning how to record situations in 20xx definitely helps. So, for example, you could set a fox to jump, and then you can practice like laser dash dance, approaching aerial or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
It's
think
more into like the level one stuff you were talking about again, right?
yeah. So you just have to grind it more, and that's why I don't know if you remember, but I did suggest you should use the tournament as like a training ground to practice those specific things instead of necessarily like trying to win the sets, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you went into that set thinking, right, the only interaction I care about is these full hop ones, and I'm going to judge how well am I recognize the situation, how well am I executing it, and all that stuff. And then if you do manage to execute it a couple of times, it's going to be worth like 50 of doing it in your room, on a CRT versus bots or whatever. So it might be worth doing that. Like I've done it in the past where I've gone to tournaments and been like, I'm not trying to beat Prof today. I'm just trying to practice these like specific scenarios versus him. And it hurts in the short term because you're like, I'm not winning, but long term, I think it pays off generally, especially at your level as well.
Yeah, I've got like nothing to really lose.
Yeah, whereas I have, I'm gonna get brand speed shit talking me or some shit if if I lose. But yeah, no. If I was in your position, I would be just like, spamming as much tournaments as possible, trying to get those opportunities for those like level 3 or 4 situations and work on these specific things. And you'll be surprised how quickly they become like second nature if you do that. I think what is happening is you're trying to implement too much too quickly.
Yeah.
It might actually be worth you reading the second book, actually, because there's it talks about some of these scenarios.
Yeah, I feel like I've internalized and like read the book enough that I've got my own way of doing my notes now. I kind of understand, even though I'm maybe jumping some steps in terms of like the practical execution of stuff. Like I'm still writing down a lot of stuff, so maybe it's more I need answers for how to implement stuff.
Yeah, and you can always use it as reference as well. If you find something new comes up, you can look back at the book. But, yeah, okay. I think if you read the second book, it'll clear up some of that stuff. So I just wanted to go over the Doc one just because I think it's very indicative of the differences between a good player and a bad player. I like how we were talking about the Tino sets versus when you were playing Pipsqueak, right?
Yes.
And funnily enough, Doc used to be one of my like problem matchups as well. Back when I was probably around your level. And I always used to think this character's bullshit. Why does everybody think he's really bad? So I can definitely understand like the frustration.
Yeah.
Okay, let me set up my CP. But yeah, like I was saying, I think it's just mainly like positioning stuff that was going wrong. So I do want to talk a bit about that as well. Okay, screen share.
It'd be interesting to hear what you think about it because Mackenzie had some similar ideas on it as well.
Oh, on the Doc set or
on position and sharking and advantage.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see?
Yeah.
Cool. Just turn my Streamlabs on. Let me turn my volume off. Sorry. I'll probably just watch like the first stock or so, just so I can point out some like good examples.
I don't even know what I'm looking at. How am I doing?
Yeah. But again, that's like character unfamiliarity, right? Probably. Okay, I think there's some good examples there. So like, how much do you know about Doc in terms of like the hitbox he want, the like moves he wants to use, and like his physics and stuff like that? Do you feel like you know like what the character does, or?
Yeah, I played Doc for like probably like 3 months or something.
Okay.
About a year ago, I'd say. So I kind of understand his drifts, his full speed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I would still personally go for worse options than this guy, but like I know that he's very limited by range.
Yeah. Um, so if we look at the first interaction that happens, not this one, like this one for example, I feel like Doc's better at hitting in front of him than he is below him, right?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
I mean, he has dare, but like if he's on the platform, then like the dare isn't going to lead to anything. And dare's more of like you getting down to rather than like a combo starter, you know. Whereas like if you're here, you know, he's got grab, he's got up smash, he's got like all of those things. So just like straight off the bat, trying to challenge from like at this angle isn't usually that good unless he's like, you know, on the ground trying to wave dash into you or something. Or if you're spaced like quite far away and then your bear can like outspace his moves. But here it's a bit different where you're doing it quite deep into him. So I would prefer to like get under Doc and then be doing like up airs, shines. So, like for example here, I would have either dash dance around here and waited for something. Like if he jumps off the platform, I could try and up tilt or back air. Or if I wanted to play aggressive, I could run under him and then up air or jump shine, or like waveland and then do stuff. It's pretty similar with like pretty much all characters other than maybe say Fox. That you want to just get under them, do up airs, do shines, do up tilts, you know. Just because most characters don't have good hitboxes beneath them.
Okay.
So that was the first one. Yes, and this is another one. So this time you do get beneath him, but then you use back air to try and hit him. And down has a really big hitbox, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at, do you know the hitboxes of like both their moves roughly?
Yeah, pretty much. Like Doc's got like 3 circles or whatever on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And they just sort of like flash up, and then Falco's is like horizontal that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a sort of like a diagonal line. He's got a little bit of one around his head, but yeah, his head is like the exposed bit, right? So it's the same as when Fox full hop nares you and he overshoots it. He hits your head, and the leg doesn't like contest him very well.
Mm-hmm.
So for here, thinking about that, you want to be either further this way when you're trying to back air him, right? Because then your hitboxes are matching up better. You're on like a better plane.
Yeah.
Or if you're below him, then you want to be up airing, right? Or, mainly up air. Just because the up air hits above you, and then it'll interact better with the down air. So straight away, it just feels like you're sort of spacing wrong around Doc, and maybe you're not taking into account his hitboxes enough. Because to me, this was a very easy like go over here and back air rather than try and go up and into him. It's the same as like when Peach does her down air as well.
Yes.
Like you want to be at the side of her with the back air rather than like coming up from below. And yeah, this one, just as a general rule, like similar to when like Fox was naring at you trying to jump in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much the same thing with Doc, where like the way he gets most of his openings is like he's close to you, and then he calls out your jump with like a nair or up air or wave dash into something. So when you're in this sort of spot, you don't want to be lasering. You usually want to be staying quite grounded because then you can abuse like CC as well. Or you want to be like throwing out preemptive moves to try and hit him moving into you. So like AC back air. Yeah, retreating dares. It depends like how you think he's going to come at you. If you think he's going to jump at you like here, then retreating back air or up tilt is really good. I say retreating back air because was it you I talked with about when to use AC bear and when to use late bear?
No, but I think I watched that lesson. I think it was with Lems.
It might have been, yeah.
I think it's if they're rushing you down and you're trying to just like push them away to use their AC bear, and if you're trying to corner pressure or hit them on the ledge or something, then to use the late one. Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. To put it in more general terms, like if you need to get an attack out fast, then you want to do the AC bear. But if you have time to spare, then the late one's better because it's stronger and you can react during it as well and change your drift. Whereas this would be an AC bear example because you don't have the space or the time to set up a late one. You need to just get a hitbox out now to stuff his nair or whatever.
Yeah.
So like dash retreating AC bear would be really good here, for example. But you try and like jump at him, and again, you're just sort of jumping into his threat range. And like you say, his moves are really bad when he's out of space, but when he's like in range, they're pretty decent. So you want to be trying to play like either outside of that range, and abusing your range with like back air, up tilt, dares, or you want to be so close to him that you can like just stuff his moves with like your aerials, whereas you're again playing in that sort of mid range where like you can do neither of those effectively, and so you have to like guess with your moves when he's going to come in, which is like decent for him because that lets him sort of wait for you to whiff and then move in or stuff like that. I think we talk about like the spacings you want to set up in. I think it might have been Moth maybe.
Yeah, I think it was Marth about being all the way out or all the way in and not being in, like that mid range that I seem to be at.
Yeah, it's just a very like similar thing across all matchups really. Like if you're this far away, then this one was alright actually. I don't know what Mackenzie said, but yeah, it's basically like you don't want to be at a range where if you move forward, you can't really hit him unless he stays still or moves forward, right? Yeah. So at that range, you either want to be spacing your attacks and walling him out, or you want to be trying to get closer and then try to play like an aggressive mix-up. Because if you're too far away, it's just super easy for him to jump out of the way or wave dash back and then hit you. Basically the same as you want to try and do to him, right? So yeah, this is another one where you're just like inside of his threat range. Yeah, the pill did throw you off. So with pills, easiest way to deal with them is just to run under them. Honestly, because like this is a big commitment from him. If you'd have run forward, you can just get under him, jump shine. They're not like needles where they're quite fast, and like cover cheek a bit better. So I just
do that one.
Yeah, so I'll pause it when I think you should run under.
Like after
probably
laser.
Like now.
Or just not laser, do you mean?
Yeah, so like you kind of have to read that they're gonna do the pill basically. So like after this down air, for example, you could have run in if you think he'd do the full hop pill, and then you're under him and you can up air, you can jump shine or whatever. It is a bit scary because like he could attack you out of shield, right? Or if he rolls through you, then now you're in the corner. But then if you choose to do that and you see the pill, that's when you just want to dash out of the range of it or throw out an attack to stuff it. So I would like maybe dash back and then dash back in or something, because the pill's going to bounce up and then be out of the way of you. So yeah, you just get stuck by that, and then yeah, you can just like hold shield here or roll out the way.
That's the same thing as the Mar thing, where one of the notes was to hold shield longer.
Yeah,
like I should just hold shield for a bit more.
Yeah. At this percent
should have been there, right?
Yeah, any sort of like any other aerial, pretty much here, just to hit him up and away. Because again, you want to be forcing that back air situation where like you can just hit him falling down because you've got better hitboxes, right?
Yeah.
And if he does avoid it, then he's in the corner, and then you get to corner pressure him, and because he's not got very big moves and he's kind of slow, so then he kind of sucks in the corner. But yeah, so that was just wrong combo choice. Again, playing at the wrong spacing here. It's funny that this is literally the problem I had when I used to play against Doc, and then I played against.
Right.
I think it was I played against Straz's Doc in friendlies before I played against Schlim raid, I think it was, and the matchup just like clicked. I was like, yeah, I'm playing at the wrong spacing, and then I started just like attacking more in these kind of situations. So like approaching aerial, approaching laser. Just don't play within this. It's the same as with needles. Don't play in this sort of horizontal 45 range. Because like him jumping here should be a big commitment. Because say he tries to jump here and you nair at him, he's getting nared out of the air at 45. Like that's an amazing combo for you, right? So you need to be willing to take that risk to stop him from just like walling you out with these pills. And it also makes him start to want doing like wave dashes back at this range or throughout up tilts, down smashes, stuff like that, and then you can start whiff punishing those or keep lasering him. There is certain times as well where you do like 2 lasers in place and he full hops, and then you can just run under him if you know the pills come in. But yeah, I would just be willing to move forward more without like at these sorts of ranges instead of trying to dash back laser. I was just kind of jank.
Yeah, I sort of approached him from a pretty bad place, like straight up into it.
Yeah, so like for example this one, I would have probably tried to run directly under him first, like over to here, and then he'd have jumped off, and then he has to double jump or land, right? And then that's good for me, either of them. Whereas you try to go up immediately, and then you short ups over you, and then you only get the weak one, and then there's some weird scrap, and then you get grabbed. So that didn't have to happen, right? No, you could have like stayed on the ground, or you could have waited for a better position and then gone up to hit him. Because like him shielding on the platform, like he can do anything, right? You could full hub, you could hold shield and then shield drop. It's not a particularly good spot to try and attack him. But if you wait for him to jump first, now he's more limited.
Yeah, I feel like I always attack into them positions.
Yeah, I just be a bit more patient, wait on the ground. If you see the jump, then that's like a cue to you've got a bit of an advantage here. Nice. Yeah, you can also bear these pills as well. That's a pretty easy way to deal with them without like trying to move out of the way or whatever.
Yeah.
What can be really good here as well if you do get hit by this downer out of the air is just to shine when you land. It stops like this happening. Because like you had time to shine here, right?
Oh, I just shield, yeah.
Or spot dodge. And when you think about it as well, like the shield doesn't really cover any high priority options, right? Like if you're at 20, Doc can't really hit you with anything meaningful other than down smash and grab. And I'd rather get down smashed than grabbed, right?
Yeah.
And especially because the down smash, like I don't know. I feel like it's very common for Docs to do dare grab here. Same as with Moths, they go for fair grab, right? Instead of doing like double fair or something. It's just like a covering their highest priority option. Yeah, this is another one. Again, you can also wait for him to land from the down air and then back air him. It does auto cancel, so it can be a bit hard, but yeah. Yeah, so I think this is a bit better. So like, even though you didn't get a hit, you like move yourself out of the way of the nair, right? And if you knew this was coming, you could fast fall through and then down air or something. Yeah, this is definitely the issue. I think you're just playing at this range too much. So like this one, instead of trying to laser, I would just dash back and then backflip back air him. And then he's off stage, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you just don't need to... It's again, like, you're just shooting lasers in spots where you can get hit for it. And that's like basically one of the only ways Doc can even get hits on Falco. Is by punishing like bad lasers. Like this should be either a dash back laser into something or a backflip back air or a downer in place or something. That's basically... Yeah, it's basically the rule for like pretty much any of the mid-low tiers. Like that's one of the main ways they hit Falco. Like you need to make them work for the neutral openings. That's why the walling is like so oppressive and everybody like talks about it or whatever. It's because it should be really hard for them to get through because they haven't got like you've got better hitboxes. Yeah, again, I would just get under him, right? Like, if you just dash under him to center, like, what's he gonna do? Like, shield drop downer or something, and then you can up tilt him. Especially if you did, like, wave dash to center, and then you can see him drop through and then up tilt, maybe. And then if he doesn't and he stays up there, he's throwing pills on the ground. Like, that should just be a very easy, like, full hop shine or something. Like, yeah, if you're under him and he jumps to either side, you can, short hop up air him, you can full hop aerial him.
Yeah, I always panic in these situations. I don't know why. It's like, maybe it's because not many people do it.
Yeah, it's just uncommon, right? So you're not prepared for it. But, like, if you sort of think about the character's strong positions and their weak positions, like we were saying again, you don't want to challenge him horizontally, you want to challenge him from below. Because that's where his hitboxes are the worst and the lowest reward. Whereas like jumping at him from here, it's the same with pretty much any character. Like he can just jump back and outspace you with like forward air or something. Or Falcon does it with back air, Moth does it with forward air, Fox does it with back air. Whereas if you're under them, they're much more vulnerable. And you're in center as well, so if you do get hit, then it's not as bad. But yeah, you're just getting a bit like impatient. And that might it might be something to think about when you get tilted, do you play more impatient as well?
I think I can.
Obviously, it's not always the same, but
yeah.
But it's something to be aware of because like that's something I abuse against Fox players a lot. Is if I notice that they're getting kind of tilted, I'll play like extra, laser walling heavy and purposely do things that are like kind of cheese because I know that they're just going to get more tilted. Yeah, and like. I don't know if we talked about this, but like one is that people get really angsty for the kill and then start like throwing out up smashes and stuff like that as Fox. So then I just start like playing really runaway shield lots, and then I get like easy openings on them. So it's the same as what this guy's doing basically. Like he sees that you're just trying to jump up and hit him, so he's just throwing out attacks. And it does feel kind of like lame and cheesy, but at the same time like. You're just not smart enough to know that you shouldn't be challenging in these positions, so it is on you to, get good in the bluntest way possible. But yeah, it is hard to realize that in the moment. But that should be one of the mentality goals or whatever. Again, yeah, you're just like jumping at him from the side rather than below.
Yeah, it's evident that I don't know. Like, I don't think I do that with anybody. Like, maybe Peach a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I guess we'll see from the Puff games if I do that versus Puff at all. But yeah, I don't seem to like attack from underneath.
Below, yeah, but it's weird because that's like the best situation to attack from.
I also do the same thing versus Marth, where I attack from like the same sorts of ranges that we've spoken about before as well. I think where it's like if they dash back here, like there's no way this is hitting, right? Like they're just gonna like do a single dash back, and I'm just hitting exactly where they are.
Yeah, it's just all about recognizing your initial positioning and then making decisions based on that positioning. Like I think we talked about the close range mix-ups versus Fox as well. Yes. It's the same sort of thing. You just want to make decisions in neutral based off of like the relative positioning between you and your opponent, rather than like I'm gonna nair after this laser regardless of where either of the characters are on the screen. Which is what is annoying because that's what's kind of drilled into us when we're first starting to play. Is like, oh, you should nair after lasers, or you should do a laser approaching laser, but there's never any like context given to why. And it is kind of because the game is very hard and context dependent. But I think it should be taught the other way, where like people shouldn't be noticing the ranges first and then building their option sets from there, rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I agree, because I feel like I've internalized like laser approaching laser or laser down air, or like you can like if someone's in shield, you can like shield pressure them.
Yeah.
But I don't really, even though I understand it conceptually in game or in real time, I don't really understand how to close that gap.
The space. Yeah.
Yeah, even though I've got a laser. Like, this is why
yeah, it's hard.
I guess it's the reasons why I was, like, swapping between Falco and other characters. Like, against worse people, I guess Falco doesn't have to worry about that problem so much. Like, range getting in.
Yeah, because worse players aren't going to, jump, like, move out of the way of your moves as well, because they'll get stuck between lasers, or, they're not going to know the ranges where they can hit you for trying to laser. But yeah, taking space is all about like knowing what your threats are and what your opponent's answers to it are. So, for example, if we take laser approaching aerial versus Moth, right? So he has to. One of the main things he does is dash back to avoid it, right? And then he gives it space. So then that's when you can start throwing in another laser in place, and then you see him dash back, and then you move forward after that second laser and take the space. Or you can do like laser and read with an approaching laser to take the space like straight away. And then, he might get to a point where he's like, oh, I don't like all of this stage I'm giving up, so I'm going to start throwing out attacks in place as well because I want to hold my ground. So then that's when you start doing, the laser in place into an aerial, or laser dash dance and then go in, because he's not going to move out of your range. And ideally you want to be doing those things from spots where if he does dash back, then you've got some, drift mix-ups, or you can overshoot and catch him. But yeah, you sort of have to like earn the space, if that makes sense.
You say earn it?
Yeah, earn the space. Like, you have to make them give up the space, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you can do that in... The thing is, a lot of people don't like play like that, really. Like, if you've ever played against Tanky, you can just sort of laser in place until he puts himself into the corner, and then he's like actually playing the game. And then there's some people that only, throw out attacks when they get hit by lasers. Like, that's a very common, like, noob habit, right? Is they just press the C stick whenever they get hit, and they're just there whiffing in place like 8 times or whatever. And I think, once you get to better players, it's just about figuring out which of those they're doing, and like, your response. But yeah, I would try and like do more like laser and then dash dance, and then you can see what they do and then take space that way, or lasers in place and then you see them move back and then you move them. And if they're not moving back and then they're throwing out attacks, then that gives you time, right? Because they're whiffing and they're in lag, so then that gives you time to sort of close the distance with your movement. And then you can set up those closer scenarios where you're good. But yeah, I think we can watch some of the Puff VOD now. I think that was the main things I wanted to get across. If that all makes sense.
Yeah, I guess I'm a bit confused whether like the taking space in the ranges is like a conscious thought at all. Like, I guess maybe for me it will have to be a conscious thought for a while until I get it unconscious.
Yeah, pretty much every concept or decision like that is always a conscious thing until you do it so much that it becomes unconscious. Like, if you think about when you were first playing the game, like, wave dashing was like a conscious decision, right? And now it's just like what you do. Same with lasers and stuff like that. It's just one of those things you have to pay a lot of attention to at the start, and then it gradually becomes second nature. Like, I would never be like, if I see that spacing now, I'm thinking I'm gonna either outspace his attack or I'm gonna try and move in and take space. I never think to like laser in that spot really. But yeah, it's just like it becomes unconscious competence or whatever, like anything.
I think it's like one of the main big missing things.
Yeah.
It's like I don't really like once I start understanding ranges of people. This will be interesting. I haven't watched this.
Yeah, I do think it's probably the biggest flaw of most like Falcos your level is that they play from the wrong ranges and the wrong positions. Like the amount of Falcos I like around your level, I see you losing to Samus, right, where they try to laser nair and they get wave dash back down smashed or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like that shouldn't be on the table if you're attacking from the right ranges, really. But people are just attacking from wherever they landed with the laser, so then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it feels very like RNG almost, whether you're getting the opening or not. But yeah, that just comes down to understanding like each character's threat ranges, basically. What are their biggest moves, what are their quickest moves, what do they want to hit you with to start their game, So yeah, I think it might be good to go away and think about, the matchups one by one and think about what moves they're trying to hit me with.
At different percents.
Yeah, different percents, different ranges. It's a lot of work. Like, I've done countless, documents trying to think about it all. But even, I think a more effective way is just to watch some VODs and then go into some games and go into explicitly thinking, like, what is their goal to hit me with, and, what ranges should I be playing at to play around that? Or what spacings are they trying to set up? But yeah. I imagine we'll see similar things with Puff. This guy already seems like a Smurf.
I don't know, it seems just like a Puff.
Yeah, I don't know. I used to think of it like that, or that they all play the same. But like, the more you learn about Puff, the more like different they seem. For example, this guy straight off the bat. So talking about threats at 0, Puff doesn't really have anything to knock you down, right? So her main goal is to either build chip damage with stray aerials, so like back air, rising forward airs, or he's trying to. The two things he can like meaningfully hit you with are Nair and grab, pretty much. All of her other moves don't really knock down or lead to anything, whereas Nair auto cancels as well. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it auto cancels from this platform height or from a full hop.
Yeah, they normally go for like Nair grab or something, or Nair.
Yeah.
Right.
So it is a mix up after the Nair, but generally if you go for like taking the Nair and then either dashing back is usually the safest one. You used to be able to shine out of it, but Puffs have started like spacing around that now. But yeah, so Nair and grab are two of the ones you really, really want to avoid at low percent. Back air also, but the cool thing is like you can change what you're spacing around based on whether she's facing front or back, right, when she's in the air. Because you want to play around Bear differently than Nair. And a lot of the ways they set up the Nair as well is either jumping from the platform, or they're like doing bears here and then they do a double jump and they turn around with it and then immediately Nair into you. So that's two things to look out for. So the game plan when you have those 5% Puff is mainly just to play around this Nair. And you do that with, again, delayed back airs are really good if you're spaced for it, so I'd prefer to be over here if you're going for back airs. You can up tilt it as well if you're in, say, this position. So you land from the laser and then you up tilt and then it would hit him.